Hare Krishna, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to daily Srimad Bhagavatam class. My name is Nanda-Braja. Today we're speaking from Canto 2, Chapter 1, and we're going to speak with translations 5 through 10, and we'll be focusing on text 6. That's Canto 2, Chapter 1, text 6, and we'll go through translations of 5 and 10. We'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. I've got a couple comments just to say people are very eager for Mukunda Datta Prabhu to be speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. He'll be speaking tomorrow, and then Monday and Tuesday also, if he's so kind to do so. So don't worry, he'll be here pretty soon. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yamun Yashoda Nanda-Braja Ranjana. Yashoda Nanda-Braja Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Kalasanji, Radha Kalasanji, Shri Radhe. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And if together we could chant the next verse. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devyam sarasvatim vidyasyam tato jayam yudirayet. Nasta prayasya abreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya nitviri utama sloke bhaktir bhakvati nistaki. Om Gantimarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Shakshuran Mityam Yena Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha. Again, welcome. Good morning, everyone. Okay. So nice. Sometimes you say good morning, people are devotees like, good morning. Very nice. So yesterday we heard from Prabhupada Priya about the beginning of this Canto 2, Chapter 1, the first steps in God realization. In Canto 1, the very last chapter, 19, at the end, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is appearing in front of Maharaj Parikshit, and Maharaj Parikshit is asking questions. And he asks what should be done and what shouldn't be done. And this is very appropriate because Srila Sukadeva Goswami is completely a pure devotee of the Lord. And so, as a pure devotee of the Lord, only wanting to serve Krishna, he's able to take the position of sitting on a Vyasasana, or taking the position of the teacher. And Maharaj Parikshit is the perfect student, because he's completely also surrendered to Krishna and ready to hear from Sukadeva Goswami. So Sukadeva Goswami, when he sits on the Vyasasana, is a representative of Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the four Vedas. And so when you sit on the Vyasasana, or we have somebody sitting on the Vyasasana, there's the respect that this person is representing Vyasadeva. Now, that doesn't mean that the person sitting on the Vyasasana should be expecting respect, right? No, they should have good character. The person who's sitting on the Vyasasana is sincerely trying to spread the words of the previous acharyas and trying to be a voice of Srila Vyasadeva and the other acharyas. So, this is a very appropriate situation in the sense of Srila Sukadev Goswami sitting on the Vyasasan and Maharaj Parikshit ready to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the first four verses, we heard Srila Sukadev Swami start to speak about the things not to do, right? Can somebody name some of the things that we spoke about that one should not do? Oh, we do not have a mic. Why we get the mic? If somebody wants to say what they want, and then I'll repeat in the mic. So, we use a mic all the time because we're not just here, but we also do it over YouTube. So people on YouTube, there's quite a bit of people that like to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, so we try to voice our, use the mic so they can hear also. But anybody want to go ahead and start? Don't make materialistic household the center of your existence. There was some examples of this given, how not to do this. What were some of those examples? Does anybody remember? Yes, Drista.
The materialistic householder would he would be envious of others, and he would put either himself, his family, his society, or his country, or his kinsmen, and he would focus on that while being envious of others.
And they call these infallible soldiers, right? Because we're taking shelter of them, thinking that they will protect us and stuff, but at the end, they won't protect us. Anybody else have any remembrance of what was not to do? Mentioned also that the householder is engaged in sleeping and sex indulgence at the night, right? That their life is surrounding these two, and that the householder is also busy in making money. So my question is making money bad? Why isn't, I saw a couple people shake their heads. Why isn't making money bad? Garuda. Yes, if you use it for Krishna's service, then making money isn't a bad thing. So the person, we're not condemning the person that's going to their work each day. They're going to their 9 to 5 and, oh my gosh, you're out there making money. No. Of course we have to do some work. We have to support our families. We have to support our lives. And so working is a natural circumstance of the material world. However, it's the attitude that the person's doing in it, right? If the attitude is, I'm only coming out here to make money so that I can maintain my family, I can maintain my happiness, I can maintain my joy or my materialistic activities, then this person is lost. But a person who is making money or working for their family in the sense of, this is my duty that Krishna has given me, this is the work, the service that Krishna has given me, then it becomes actually, it releases one from material bondage. Which, so you can see that the person can be doing the same type of work, but the consciousness or the intent of their work is creating two totally different results. One is binding somebody to the material world, and one's releasing the person to the material world. Okay, so let's go to text 5, please. Chapter 1, yes. Thank you. So we'll read the translations 5 through 10. We'll speak a little bit about them, and then we'll go to text 6. Would somebody like to read the translation of text 5?
O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the Supersoul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries.
In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains here that this is actually an order, that when we hear about Krishna, and then when we hear about him, we glorify. And from this process of hearing and glorifying, then we can remember Krishna. It's very nice. Check 6.
The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life.
So this text will be the purport. So we'll go to text 7.
O King Parikshit, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of the Lord.
Okay, number 8.
At the end of the Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva.
So in the 7 and 8, Srila Prabhupada speaks in the purport about somebody who's in transcendence, is a liberated person. And as a liberated person, actually, I'll ask you guys, what do we understand of a liberated person? What's the symptoms of a person who's liberated? Krista.
Distaste for material nature.
Distaste from material nature. Right. Anybody else? Prabhupada Priya?
They're above the influence of the three modes of material nature.
Right, material nature isn't influencing them. They're not directed when something comes by them. We have this thing called ADHD right now, right? And so they call it a squirrel. Have you guys heard this kind of meme? It's like, you're walking around, you're doing something, and something goes by, and squirrel, and it totally distracts you from what you're doing, what you're focused on. The transcendentalist or liberated person isn't ever deflected by their focus. They're always focused on transcendence or Krishna consciousness. And you're going to say something? Yeah.
I was to say, and also they have no karma. They have no karmic.
No
knowledge.
karma. Liberated from karmic reactions. So in 7, we understand that liberated person who's free from all material bondage. And then 8, it explains, what do? Well, because they are liberated, they're attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is so sweet and so attractive that a person who is not affected by the laws of material nature, they have no duty, they're completely self-satisfied, will be attracted to the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the nectar or the essence of all Vedic literature, and is explaining the wonderful pastimes, the forms, the names, forms, pastimes of Krishna. And so somebody who is completely liberated will still be attracted to these. Does anybody have any examples of any other sages that were transcendentally situated or liberated and became attracted to either Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna? The 4 Kumaras, right? So the 4 Kumaras are very interesting, right? They're 4 devotees, or who are in young child bodies, and they're completely liberated with no need for anything. And I've heard there's 2 different things said about what attracts the Kumars to Krishna, right? But I'll use the one that I mostly remember is that they smelt the tulsi leaves that were offered to Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Is this also the remembrance? There's one other. Does anybody know the other one that said that what attracts the other Kumaras to Lord Krishna? Anybody? This one? Okay. So the Kumaras, being totally liberated, they smell the tulsi leaf from the feet of Lord Krishna, and they become completely attracted to Krishna, and they want to know nothing about Krishna. Is there any other examples of liberated souls that are become attracted to Krishna through some means? Dhruva Maharaj. That's interesting, right? He performed his sacrifice. He had the material desire, but after seeing Krishna, he no longer wanted to. He understood that was like he was searching after shards of glass, and he found a jewel. I need help on this one. Would you say that Dhruva is an instance of somebody who's was Dhruva completely liberated at the time of his sacrifice or after his sacrifice. I'm feeling like not so, but anybody else have any comments? No? Trista?
I believe he had like material motivation.
Yeah, right?
So,
So
if you have material desires, probably not totally above all of those.
right? Yeah, so Dhruva was doing his penance for a material desire, so he wasn't quite in the liberated state yet. How about Sukadev Goswami, who's going to speak Srimad Bhagavatam? Sukadev Goswami is known to be walking around with his father Vyasadeva following him, and he goes by a lake. And at the lake, there's some ladies who are bathing, and they're unclothed bathing, and he walks by. And the ladies, they don't pay it no attention. However, right behind him is his father, and when they see his father, they get dressed. They cover themselves. Yeah. And so Vyasadeva, being curious about this, says, I noticed that you, when my son went by, Sukadeva Goswami, you didn't even give it, a mind. But when I walked by, you decided to cover up. Why? And they said, because your son, he doesn't distinguish between male and female. He doesn't have these distinguishing. He's completely seeing everything on a platform of a Uttama Adhikarya, the highest platform. So he's seeing everything equally. But his father, Vyasadeva, he did see the difference, and so they had to cover. So, point being is that a person who is liberated without any tinge of material desire, who is free from all material, from material nature, is always attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna's pastimes. Bali, you have some?
Yeah, just going back to after Dhruva Maharaj seeing the Supreme Personality.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He was praying for association with devotees who relished it.
Mm. Mm.
So, I'm wondering if after he sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was he completely?
Yeah, when he sees Krishna from his penances, certainly when he sees Krishna, he's completely liberated. Matter of fact, Krishna, it's said that Krishna gives him the intelligence to speak these wonderful words. So he completely becomes liberated, completely becomes attracted, becomes a pure devotee at that moment by seeing Krishna. So it's a little bit different in the sense of that he wasn't liberated beforehand, he had material desires, and then seeing Krishna, he became liberated. But what we're speaking about here is that we're talking about people that are already liberated, they aren't bound by material desires, and then they hear of Krishna, or something comes in their preview of Krishna consciousness, and they become completely attracted by it. Do you see the difference there? Okay. Let's, yes, thank you. Let's go to text 9, please. Somebody like to read the translation, please?
O saintly king, I was certainly situated perfectly in transcendence, yet I was still attracted by the delineation of the pastimes of the Lord, who is described by enlightened verses.
Here it is. Maharaj Parikshit says, I was completely liberated, I heard Srimad Bhagavatam, and I was completely attracted to it. Yes, Trissa.
I think this might be Shukadev Goswami because he addresses...
Yes, you're right. Did I say Maharaj Parikshit?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Thank you. I made a mistake there. Okay, verse 10.
That very Srimad Bhagavatam I shall recite before you, because you are the most sincere devotee of Lord Krishna. One who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam achieves unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, the giver of salvation.
So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about the disciplic succession, the fact that a teacher is going to pass on this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to the student. And Maharaj Parikshit, like we was talking about before, is the perfect student, and Sukadeva Goswami is the perfect teacher. And so he's going to pass on this nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, of the essence of Krishna consciousness, to his disciple or the student. Okay, can we go to, is anybody, any comments on those 5 verses? Because we're about to go to 6. Prabhupada Priya, please.
Goswami and liberated souls being attracted to Krishna, hearing about Krishna. Yeah, that indicates that the pastimes of Krishna and qualities of Krishna are not in any way material, because they're not attracted to material things.
Yes.
So the fact that liberated people are still attracted to hearing about Krishna means that topics about Krishna are completely spiritual.
Yeah, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada says that in the purport. I'm not sure, I'm not remember exactly which one of these verses, but Srila Prabhupada makes the exact same point, that yes, these because these people are liberated and have no attraction to material, this must mean that the activities of Srimad Bhagavatam must be so sweet and transcendental that they are attracted. Okay.
Some of Krishna's pastimes can resemble ordinary activities.
Yeah. Yeah, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, right, some people deride me, saying that my activities are like normal person, but they would be wrong in not understanding me. And that, matter of fact, it says in the other one that people understanding my activities and my appearance, being attracted to me, go back to Godhead at the time, at the time of death. 6. Okay, can you please click on this and we'll read the Sanskrit, please. Itvan Sankhya Yogabayam Etyavan Sankhya Yogabayam Svadharma Pranadistyayaha Svadharma Pranadistyayaha Janmalabhya Param Pumsyam Janmalabhya Param Pumsyam Ante Naranaya Smriti Ante Narayana Smriti. Please chant.
Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Svadharma Parinishthaya
Swadharma Prananistaya
Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smriti
Ante Narayana Smriti. Sankhya Yogabayam Anybody else? Pumsa Ante Narayana Smriti. Translation. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Please repeat. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practicing of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Would somebody please read the purport?
Narayan is the transcendental personality of Godhead, beyond the material creation. Everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass of the Mahat Tattva, material principle. and is known as the material world. The existence of Narayan, or the personality of Godhead, is not within the jurisdiction of this Mahat Tattva, and as such, the name, form, attributes, etc. of Narayan are beyond the jurisdiction of the material world. By the speculation of empiric philosophy, which discerns matter from spirit, or by cultivation of mystic powers, which ultimately helps the performer to reach any planet of the universe, or beyond the universe, or by discharge of religious duties, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayan Smriti, or constant remembrance of the personality of Godhead. This is possible only by the association of a pure devotee, who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, or karmis. In terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures, there are many historical instances of the achievement of spiritual perfection, such as the Sanakadi rishis, or the 9 celebrated yogendras, who attained perfection only after being situated in the devotional service of the Lord. None of the devotees of the Lord ever deviated from the path of devotional service by taking to other methods as adopted by jnanis or yogis. Everyone is anxious to achieve the highest perfection of his particular activity, and it is indicated herein that such perfection is Narayan Smriti, for which everyone must endeavor his best. In other words, life should be molded in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the personality of Godhead in every step of life.
So the beginning of this purport, Srila Prabhupada says, everything that is created, sustained, and at the end annihilated is within the compass of the Mahat Tattva, or material principle, and is known as the material world. So material nature, being temporary, is the activities of the materialistic person. So with acting within this field, or these principles, then the soul, being of spiritual quality, is never satisfied, because there's a beginning, there's an end. And us as a soul, or spiritual energy, we are like fish out of water, because we're engaging with this material energy. Spiritual energy is Sat Chit Ananda, or completely blissful, completely full of knowledge, and eternal. So when we're acting in a sense of this material principle, we need somebody to pull us out of it, right? And so this is, Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that the activities of the jnanis, yogis, and karmis are actually, I really like this line right here. Where is it? This is possible only by the association of the pure devotee, who can give the finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, and karmis in terms of prescribed duties defined in the scriptures. Can anybody explain what the final touch is that Srila Prabhupada is talking about? Jose, do you have any idea what the final touch of...
Maybe the understanding, the explanation of what's happening, because as an...
It's working. Yeah.
As a new devotee, maybe you don't have the information and it's too much information on books. So you might feel it and you might be following by heart, but those final touches, for me at least, is information. So other devotees explaining me about the deities or the histories about festivities or just the process. And so for me that's the final details that make all these for me to understand it better.
Gotcha. So if I'm hearing you right, the information that you're getting, along with people helping you to learn how to do it and how to interact with it, is giving you the experience of Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
That's very nice. Anybody else have any thoughts about the final touch, or the what is it?
Got a few
The finishing touch. Yes, Bali.
So a couple guesses would be maybe if you didn't, weren't 100% Krishna consciousness, maybe Krishna would be merciful and give you a couple, percentages,
Ah,
let
So-
you back into Godhead. And the other one was like maybe, he'll reveal to you who you are in spiritual world or something like that. So just a couple guesses.
So the finishing touch is Krishna's mercy. Some kind of, is that am I hearing you right? The give you a couple extra percentages, or maybe revealing to you some of your activities in the spiritual world. And so Krishna's mercy, very nice. Yes, Drista.
I had a thought that like the Gyanis, Yogis, and Karmis, they're doing all these activities, and like for example, some like Karmis or people doing karma, they're doing such like great things for humanity, and like they're opening hospitals and so many charities and stuff like that. But really the finishing touch will be when Krishna gets added to it. And so the Karmis are doing all these activities, but they're kind of pointless until the Transcendentalist comes and adds the spiritual aspect into it. And then same with the Gyanis, they have so much knowledge, but unless Krishna is in the equation, all the knowledge is kind of useless. And then the Yogis, they do so much austerity, but until they do austerity for Krishna, it's also useless. So it's like they have these great things that they're doing, but they need the little finishing touch of adding Krishna into it.
So by jnana, yoga, and karma, can one become liberated?
Yeah, I was thinking that because we talk about the yoga ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of a ladder is that you're on the ground and you want to get up on the roof or whatever. So so ground could equate to just total material life, and then the roof means reestablished in your eternal constitutional loving relationship with Krishna. So these jnana, yoga, and karma processes can bring you up to different rungs on the ladder, but you need the association of a pure devotee to actually like hold you by the hand and pull you up off the ladder onto the roof so
Yes.
that you can actually like do stuff on the roof. Otherwise you just stay stuck on the ladder. And liberation, depending on how they're practiced, those processes can bring one to liberation, but liberation is not the success.
Yes.
Liberation is just a step along the way. And
Right.
for someone who's practicing devotional service, liberation just comes automatically.
So this is what putting these 5 verses together, we can understand that through jnani, karma, and yoga, that one can get up to liberation. But like Prabhupada Priya is saying, this is not the goal. Just because we're not influenced by material desires doesn't mean that it's the final goal. What we need is Bhagavatam and the person Bhagavatam to help give us that finishing touch. So the when we're reading right now, the person Bhagavatam is Maharaj Sukadev Goswami, right? As he's transcendentally liberated, but he's a pure devotee of the Lord, so he's going to speak Bhagavatam. And then he's speaking the subject of Bhagavatam. He's speaking the subject of Bhagavatam. And so this is going to bring us through our activities. Like you were saying, we have activities, but what helps is the devotees around you are giving you knowledge, and then you're working on from that knowledge, and it's coming together to be realized knowledge, and it's working in your life. So this is the finishing touch that, from what I'm understanding, that Srila Prabhupada is saying is that we will receive Srimad Bhagavatam from the teacher, and that if we're prepared as students with a heart of sincerity to learn about these subjects, then we can bring them together and understand and start to live a life of Srimad Bhagavatam. Any comments on that? Yes.
So talkative. But I was thinking that, maybe we didn't do jnana or karma or yoga, but, most of us, we also had some preliminary practices or experiences that helped us in our spiritual journey. Maybe we were practicing a different, Christianity or something else, or doing some kind of meditation or something, reading spiritual books. So these are all like modern day semblances of jnana, karma, and yoga, or doing some kind of like charitable work, voluntary work. So those are all things that help bring about detachment, help bring about reflection, introspection, empathy, which are favorable for spiritual life and which gradually qualify us to have the good karma, basically, to like be able to meet a devotee, you know, and then that devotee can, you know, do the finishing touches and teach us how to engage actually in direct service to the Lord.
Hmm. So it kind of reminds me of what Bali was speaking about, is that sometimes Krishna, although we might not be completely qualified, he gives us some mercy, it like bumps us up, right? So we might not be in this position of liberation where we're at. We're still engaged in material activities and stuff, but because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, the devotee, the pure devotee, we get an opportunity to move up to that platform of devotional service. We're about at 8:20. We can take comments. Prabhu, is it possible, or would you be willing to give any comments? Okay, can we get...
When it says that remembering Narayan at the end of life is achieved by either karma, yoga, or gyan, without mentioning bhakti, how are we to understand that?
One more time the question?
The verse says that one achieves remembrance of Narayan at the time of death, either by karma, yoga, or jnana, and it does not mention bhakti. So how are we to understand that you can achieve remembrance of Narayan at the end of life by karma, by jnana, or by yoga?
So I guess I'm understanding, and I could be wrong. I'd like to be, from what I'm understanding, is the verse is saying that the goal of life is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life, and that not necessarily achieved either by the highest perfection of human life. I think we're speaking about liberation at that point right there. The highest perfection of human life is in liberation. Done by these three, achieved by these three, the highest perfection of human life achieved either by. So the highest perfection of life of coming to liberation, but the goal is to remember Krishna at the end of life. So I'm seeing them as separated. It's not saying that these three are the goal and therefore you do see Krishna. What I'm understanding is that the goal of these three is to remember Krishna at the end of life. And therefore, he goes on to explain that we need the Bhagavatam and we need the devotee to get that extra finishing touch to bring us above those so that we can reach the perfection of life. And I could be wrong. That's just kind of how I read it. Any other thoughts? Or do you have any thoughts on it, Prabhu?
Well, it says that remembrance is achieved by these three processes. That's quite clear.
I'm reading as the highest perfection of human life is achieved by those three, but not necessarily that the remembrance that those are the product of, or by those we will remember Krishna at the end of life. So I'm reading it a little bit different here, but I could be wrong. Prabhupada Priya, you have something?
Yeah, so basically it's saying the highest perfection of human life is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just leaving out the clause in the middle. If you just take a simple sentence, the highest perfection of human life is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So remembering the personality of Godhead is in itself bhakti. Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam.
Mm.
So, he's basically saying the highest perfection of human life is bhakti. Whether you come to bhakti through a preliminary process of gyan, karma, or yoga, that doesn't matter. Just the goal is you need to come to bhakti. It doesn't matter how you come at it, as long as you get there. And that's what he's saying.
I was trying to similarly say something like that, because I was understanding that these three aren't saying that they are the perfection of life, but the perfection of life is to remember Krishna. I'm sorry, does that make sense, Prabhu? Or would you have something to comment? It's like a marathon, and we got the baton. It's
Sorry to make you work. I would say that bhakti includes all these other processes. So bhakti includes dharma and yoga and gyan. So they're not lacking in bhakti. And in that sense, you can say that you can achieve remembrance of Narayan by these three processes, but it's understood that they will be manifestations of bhakti and nothing more.
Very nice. I think that really sums it up very well. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Any other comments, questions? Mother Kunti, please.
This is possible only by the association of a pure devotee.
Bhagavatam.
That's because you said the second part, who can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all gyanis, yogis, or karmis, in terms of prescribed duties to find in the scriptures.
So you're saying that sentence that we were reading is the answer to that question? Yeah, the association of a pure devotee, the person Bhagavatam.
The original question was, how does this indicate bhakti? How do we know that this is talking about bhakti? So we know through parampara, because Srila Prabhupada says so in the purport, that, because just by cultivating gyan, yoga, or karma, one doesn't necessarily come to bhakti. One can go on cultivating gyan for millions of lifetimes and never come to bhakti, unless one meets a devotee, because bhakti doesn't come from karma, it doesn't come from jnana, and it doesn't come from yoga. Bhakti comes from the bhakta.
Mm-hmm.
So it can only be given by one who has it. So that therefore Prabhupada mentions this is possible only by the association of a pure devotee.
Yeah, yes. And I also appreciate the coming together that bhakti is, everything's within bhakti, that the jnana process, these yoga karma, and the karma yoga process is complete in bhakti yoga. Very nice. Any other questions or comments? We have 3 more minutes. Maybe.
This last line of the verse, Ante Narayana Smriti, Prabhupada would quote it a lot in classes. Anyone who listens to Prabhupada classes, he just repeat it all the time, Ante Narayana Smriti. And whenever Prabhupada is talking about the goal of life, he says this is the goal, to remember. And of course, the chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita is all about how to remember Krishna at the time of death. And there, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the main process to achieve this goal of life, of remembering Krishna at the time of death, is by chanting Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I have a question. I will fully admit that while sitting on this Vyasasana, I'm not the most qualified. I appreciate the opportunity to sit here because it's purifying to me, and I get to share some knowledge, and I learn and I grow, and I hope that we all get to grow. So sometimes I have questions, and if I might ask somebody who's definitely more knowledge than I, Papa Priya, why is it chosen in this translation to speak about Narayana instead of focusing on something like the name Krishna? If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, because that's in the translation. It's the word name Narayan is there.
Yeah.
In the Sanskrit, so it's Prabhupada. He doesn't. Yeah, in the purport he talks about Narayan, The main thing is because Shukadeva Goswami speaking to Parikshit, he could have said Krishna because Parikshit's already a devotee of Krishna, right? But there's also many other people there. So whenever these kinds of conversations take place, then all the sages come from all over. They get news of it, through some intergalactic messaging services. They get news that, oh, pure devotees are going to be speaking about the Lord. And they come from wherever they are. Demigods come. These great personalities come. And many of these personalities, they aren't quite clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. Everyone understands that Narayan is Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. And many people think Lord Vishnu is supreme because Lord Vishnu presents himself as supreme. Krishna often, he masks his pastimes. They look like the pastimes of an ordinary being. Like we see how sometimes Lord Brahma gets confused, Lord Shiva gets confused. But they never get confused about Narayan. So, so he's starting off making this point that we need to remember Narayan.
Okay.
But then as the Bhagavatam progresses, it becomes clear that the source of Narayan is Krishna.
Okay.
And the pastimes of Krishna are the supreme thing to object of remembrance.
Wow, that's such a so he's doing it for the benefit of the whole assembly, going to the understanding of Krishna as Narayan, or the on reverence of Krishna, instead of going to the personality of Krishna that some people can't understand. Am I understanding correctly there?
Yeah, you see a lot of this happening in the Bhagavatam. That often, like even Parikshit will ask questions that he's not asking because it's for others.
Yeah.
To clarify things for the listeners, because it's a mixed group. Some of them are even impersonalists in the audience. But yeah.
Oh, very nice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay. Okay, Molly, really quick question.
So, it's talking about Moonlight Association of Pure Devotee. If you're not getting much association of Pure Devotee in your current location, is that something you should be excited about? Like, move a location to try to Pure Devotee?
I was laughing that I got my garland right now. I thought it was funny. So the wonderful thing about getting the association of pure devotee isn't that association isn't just by being close to somebody or standing them, it's by taking their instruction. And so the most wonderful thing we have in ISKCON as devotees of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is Srila Prabhupada's books. And so if we really dive into Srila Prabhupada's books, we can start seeing that we have the association of them. There's people that have came to the temple and read Srila Prabhupada books and said, hey, can I meet Srila Prabhupada? And they say, oh, actually Srila Prabhupada left his body some time ago. Tears come down their eye. Because through reading of Srila Prabhupada's books, they gain this love and this attachment to Srila Prabhupada. So that would be my highest, first encouragement, is to associate with the pure devotee through Srila Prabhupada's books. Now, sometimes that can be difficult for us, and so we should try to use our intelligence to put ourselves in the best situation. So if we're continually struggling by, maybe we need to get a group of devotees together so we can read Srila Prabhupada's books and help encourage us to read them, those books. That's good association. But Srila Prabhupada's books, and then using our intelligence to see if the situation we're in is beneficial to our Krishna consciousness. And then we pray, Krishna, please help me to understand a situation that can be best for my Krishna consciousness. And then talk to other devotees, hey, I'm having this trouble, I'm having this difficulty, please, what do you suggest? And if we ask enough people, ask enough Brahmins, we'll start to hear, consistently, okay, I can hear what Krishna's saying because I'm hearing the same thing over and over. Prabhupada Priya, please.
Another way to get the association of pure devotees, even if they're not like right in the room with you or something, is by following their instructions. Like Srila Prabhupada wanted us to spread Krishna consciousness. He wanted us to distribute his books, get everyone in every town and village to chant the holy names. So, there are times many times that I've been alone on book distribution, and yet like physically alone, but I've never felt closer in association with my spiritual master, with Srila Prabhupada, through that activity, because I know it's directly following their instruction, and I'm praying to them, and I'm doing their will. So, when we do our services in the right state of consciousness, we can be totally alone, but totally with a pure devotee. And Srila Prabhupada said that. Somebody asked him, Prabhupada, did you ever feel alone in that first year, when you were really struggling alone? He said, no, my Guru Maharaj was always with me.
Mm.
So like that.
Very nice. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Pramanande Hari Hari Bol.